Hello everyone, I'm Eric Ham coming to you live from our studios here in Washington, D.C. And today on Firstpost America, we'll be covering all the top stories from the U.S. and around the world, making sure that you are caught up on all the stories taking place today and every day. But first, we begin with the latest global headlines. Markets rise after Nvidia posts third quarter earnings that beat Wall Street's estimates, temporarily easing concerns that the soaring valuations of AI firms have caused a bubble. India says Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Johannesburg from November 21st to the 23rd to attend the 20th G20 Leaders Summit, where he's expected to present the country's perspective and address all three sessions. The EU's foreign policy chief says Kyiv and Europe must be involved in any Ukraine peace deal as the U.S. pushes for a new proposal that appears to echo Russia's demands. The International Atomic Energy Agency adopts a resolution calling on Iran to grant the watchdog access and provide information on the country's nuclear program. And Taiwan's president signals support for Japan by eating Japanese-sourced sushi, a symbolic gesture after Beijing warned it will ban all seafood imports from Tokyo amid rising tensions over the self-ruled island, which China claims as its own. Today we begin with the political drama that has followed President Donald Trump into the heart of his presidency, a controversy he once stoked on the campaign trail, but is now engulfing his entire administration and quite possibly the future of MAGA itself. The president has signed legislation ordering the Justice Department to release long-sealed files from its investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The bill, which passed both chambers of Congress with strong bipartisan support, requires the Justice Department to publish a wide range of Epstein-related documents within 30 days. Now, these include investigative files, flight logs, internal communications, details of charging decisions, immunity deals, financial networks, and information related to Epstein's 2019 death in a federal prison cell, officially ruled a suicide.
American people have waited long enough. Jeffrey Epstein's victims have waited long enough. Let the truth come out. Let transparency reign. And I urge my Republican colleagues, let the Senate act today.
Now, the decision to sign the measure represents a sharp reversal for the president, because for months he urged Republican lawmakers to block the bill, warning that releasing the records could create a damaging precedent for presidential authority. However, as momentum in Congress hardened and passage became inevitable, the U.S. president shifted his position earlier this week.
I don't care about released or not. What I think you should do, if you're going to do it, then you have to go into Epstein's friends. This Reid Hoffman spent a lot of time on the island. I was never at his island.
Trying desperately to control the narrative, the president from the Oval Office presented the move as a commitment to transparency. And then on social media, he said releasing the files would reveal the truth about certain Democrats and their associations with Jeffrey Epstein, insisting that Republicans had nothing to hide.
We will follow the law. The law passed both chambers last evening. It has not yet been signed, but we will continue to follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
But Democrats and even Republicans see it quite differently. They point out that President Trump's executive authority to declassify or release many of these materials at any time, and argue his sudden shift reflects political pressure rather than a genuine embrace of openness. In fact, some Democratic leaders even highlighted the president's past friendship with Epstein, noting that the two socialized before Epstein's 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor.
What do the American people want to know? They want to know who else visited Epstein's island, who raped young girls, who abused young girls, who are the other people who were involved. Some of those names have been shared with Thomas Massey and me, by survivors and survivors' lawyers. But what we need is for those files to come out, the files on Epstein's computers, the witness memorandum, the interviews.
Now, public interest in the case remains exceptionally high. A recent Reuters Ipsos poll found that only 20% of Americans, including just 44% of Republicans, approve of President Trump's and how he has handled the Epstein matter. In fact, large majorities across political lines believe the government is still hiding information about Epstein's network and client list. Recent documents released from Congress have revived scrutiny of Epstein's links with high-profile figures, including former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers and writer Michael Wolff. In fact, some of Epstein's emails even referenced President Trump himself, often critically, with Epstein in one instance writing that the president knew about the girls, and in another describing him as the dog that hasn't barked. With the Justice Department now under a legal mandate, Washington is bracing for potentially explosive disclosures. Yet it remains uncertain how much new material exists and how much will actually become public under the law's exceptions. And now Washington waits and braces for the administration's next move. Meanwhile, the president hopes this long-running saga has finally come to an end, allowing him room and space to restore his fractured base and, more importantly, regain his once sky-high approval ratings from Republicans. After President Trump's sudden reversal on releasing the Epstein files, attention in Washington is now shifted to his increasingly fraught and now unexpectedly conciliatory relationship with New York City's mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. President Trump announced on Wednesday night that he will host Mamdani at the Oval Office this Friday, setting the stage for the first face-to-face encounter between two men who have spent months trading barbs and insults, threats, and pointed political jabs. The meeting comes less than 2 weeks after the 34-year-old Democratic socialist stunned the political establishment by winning the city's mayoral race. However, the encounter marks an abrupt change in tone for the president who once warned that he would take over New York City if Mamdani prevailed, and who repeatedly labeled the incoming mayor, quote-unquote, a communist and total nut job.
I think you have to look, if he is a communist, you know there's not going to be a lot of activity. So you would need bridges and tunnels and all the different things that were being planned for New York, I think. And look, I hope New York does well. That's all I can say. I love New York. I grew up in New York. I did well in New York, always did well. And I hope New York does well. That's all.
Now, during the mayoral race, President Trump threw his support behind Andrew Cuomo in both the primary and general elections, portraying Mamdani as a dangerous symbol of the Democratic left. And in the final days before the vote, he even threatened to slash federal funding to New York, money the city relies on to support large portions of its 2026 budget. Mamdani, meanwhile, ran on an affordability-driven agenda that included free city buses, rent freezes on stabilized apartments, and the creation of city-owned grocery stores. He made Trump a central foil of his campaign, criticizing the administration's immigration crackdown and calling out what he described as authoritarian impulses from Washington.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. President Trump, when I say this, to get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. Turn the volume up.
Yet the acrimony has now softened in recent days, with Mamdani acknowledging that his team actually initiated contact with the White House, insisting that he has a responsibility to meet with anyone who can help New Yorkers cope with soaring costs and tightening household budgets.
The team reached out to the White House to fulfill a commitment I made to New Yorkers over the course of this campaign, a commitment as it would help to address the affordability crisis that is pushing so many of them out of this city. Because what we see, the president ran a campaign where he spoke about a promise to deliver cheaper groceries, a promise to reduce the cost of living if we want to make it easier for New Yorkers and for Americans to afford the day-to-day necessities of their life.
Now, this will be both Mamdani's and President Trump's first opportunity to look each other in the eye after months of bruising, scathing attacks, and accusations. Now, whether the two men can actually find common ground is anyone's guess, though shades of Zelensky's disastrous Oval Office meeting certainly comes to mind. But for now, both sides say they are willing to talk. And now moving on to South America, where Venezuela is once again turning to an unusual weapon in the face of rising pressure from the United States. And it's not diplomacy or speeches, but a cartoon superhero with a thick mustache and a mission to save the nation. His name is Super Mustache, the animated alter ego of President Nicolas Maduro, and he's become the face of the country's evolving propaganda campaign as tensions with Washington continue to escalate. Now, this figure, of course, is not new. In fact, since 2021, episodes of Super Mustache, or Super Bigote, as he's known in Spanish, has aired on state television. The show blends humor, exaggerated heroics, and political messaging to portray Venezuela as a nation's under threat from foreign powers. Previous episodes have mocked U.S. leaders and even tech billionaire Elon Musk. In one storyline, Super Mustache defeats a satanic person who resembles Musk and sends him to Mars with the power of God. But now, specifically from September, U.S. warships have moved closer to the Venezuelan coast, and President Donald Trump has openly discussed military options. And as real-world tensions continue to sharpen, the tone of the cartoon has also shifted. In an episode aired just days after the U.S. attacked the first alleged drug boat in the Caribbean, Super Mustache traded his superhero suit for a military uniform, declaring that Venezuela is not a nation that seeks war. That message, however, sits in stark contrast with the Maduro government's actions. Officials have urged citizens to prepare for possible conflict while simultaneously insisting that everything is normal. Now, the contradiction is visible on the streets of Caracas as well. There are no posters, murals, or slogans urging support for a wartime stance, unusual for a government that traditionally relies on heavy public messaging. President Maduro himself has taken a more personal approach. Once a leader who favored controlled indoor appearances, he now appears almost daily in public, accompanied by tight security. Instead of projecting military strength, he casts himself as a peacemaker.
It is to the people of the United States that I speak to at this moment, before these 100 jurists from 34 countries, to say, stop the insane hand of those who order bombing, killing, and bringing war to South America, to the Caribbean. Stop the war. No to war.
Queremos otra Gaza ahora en Sudamérica.
At one event, he even sang John Lennon's Imagine, calling on President Trump to meet him for face-to-face talks. Now, analysts say this split-screen communication strategy, humor and defense on one side, calm and negotiation on the other, has evolved as the crisis continues to deepen. And now, contrary to Maduro's softer tone, another influential figure in the government is taking a harder line. Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello. On his long-running state TV show, Cabello mixed jokes with lengthy political attacks. In fact, he rejects Washington's claim that its actions in the Caribbean are, in fact, about drug trafficking.
We live in peace in this country. Just leave us alone. It's undoubtedly aggression. These military exercises they're conducting jointly with Trinidad are provocations, denounced in this statement you're referring to.
Meanwhile, Venezuela has released dramatic video of soldiers training, another sign of the uncertainty beneath the surface. And that's the dilemma Venezuela now confronts, a government trying to prepare its people for every outcome without triggering the fear of a nation on the brink. And as tensions continue to rise and the rhetoric sharpens, one question continues to linger. If the crisis reaches its peak, will Super Mustache's sword remain a symbol, or will the regime demand something far more real? What a difference a few months make. I'm talking about Donald Trump and Elon Musk. It turns out the two men who spent the summer trading barbs are very much now back on speaking terms. The reunion played out in full view of Saudi royalty, global CEOs, and a very attentive internet. Here's our story with more.
You're so lucky I'm with you, Elon. I'll tell you, you are. Has he ever thanked me properly?
Donald Trump and Elon Musk appear to have rebooted their bromance. After a summer of very public feuding, subtweeting and accusations that felt ripped straight from a messy celebrity breakup, the pair seemed to have reunited, and they did it in front of an audience. Not just any audience, but a two-day celebration with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Wall Street titans, and enough CEOs to form a Fortune 500 boy band. Trump didn't just welcome Musk back into the fold, he practically rolled out the red carpet, spotlight included. The president mentioned him 3 times during a single speech while touting new tax bill deductions for domestic cars. A video circulating online captured the moment when Trump entered the White House dinner with Melania and the Saudi Crown Prince. He spotted Musk and gave him a gentle shoulder tap. Musk nodded back with the energy of a man who knew the internet was watching. The bros are back together, one poster declared, and honestly, the evidence is overwhelming. Not only did Musk get a golden ticket-style invite to the White House banquet, he was seated among some of the big names in tech. Apple's Tim Cook, Nvidia's Jensen Huang, and Salesforce's Mark Benioff. If this were high school, Musk was back at the popular table. And Musk, it turns out, took the hint. Hours later, he posted a photo from the US-Saudi Investment Forum, flanked by Trump, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and Nvidia's Jensen Huang. He wrote, quote, "I would like to thank President Trump for all he has done for America and the world." End quote. This highly choreographed reunion comes months after the two waged an open war. Musk, after serving as head of Trump's quirkily named Department of Government Efficiency or DOGE, exited in May and promptly blasted Trump's budget ambitions, especially his massive Big Beautiful Bill. Trump fired back, threatening government contracts. Musk then retaliated by announcing his own political party, the America Party. He also claimed earlier this year that the reason why the Trump administration has not released the Epstein files is because President Donald Trump is mentioned in them. By June, their friendship was presumed dead. Political obituaries were drafted. Musk declared that Trump wouldn't have won the 2024 election without him. Trump suggested that Musk should keep quiet about who owes him. The vibes were tense. If there's one thing Donald Trump is known for, it's having the memory of an elephant and the forgiveness style of a dragon guarding its hoard. He never forgets a slight. But Elon Musk seems to occupy a peculiar VIP gold-plated corner of Trump's mental filing cabinet. The same man who disowns cabinet members over a lukewarm comment will happily patch things up with Musk after being publicly roasted, politically undercut, and told that he only won because of Elon's support. Somehow, Musk keeps getting the rarest of Trump world commodities, a second chance. Maybe it's the rockets, maybe it's the cars, or maybe Trump just really enjoys having a billionaire buddy he can banter with. Whatever the reason, forgiveness may not be Trump's brand, but for Musk, he's made an exception. Maybe the bromance is officially back on. Until the next feud, or the next bill, or the next exposed.
And finally, London has taken the crown once again. For the 11th straight year, the city has been ranked the world's best, beating New York, Paris, Tokyo, and Dubai. Now, this isn't just about landmarks or history. A major global study measuring everything from culture and livability to investment in tourism puts London, once again, right on top. Here's the final story to tell you about more.
London has done it again. The city that blends old world charm with modern ambition has just been crowned the world's best city for the 11th year in a row. 11 years of reigning at the top. 11 years of proving that no matter how fast the world changes, London changes faster, smarter, and with more style. This list, compiled by Resonance Consultancy, is one of the most closely watched city rankings, and it doesn't rely on a single metric. It uses 34 different factors, from job opportunities and airport connectivity to culture, nightlife, safety, and green spaces. The rankings revolve around 3 key pillars: livability, which includes infrastructure, public transport, green spaces, and digital access; lovability, meaning culture, nightlife, culinary scene, and community vibe; and prosperity, including business growth, tourism spending, and investment opportunities. And this time, the survey puts London at the top of a list packed with some of the biggest names on the planet. New York in second place, followed by Paris, Tokyo, Madrid, Singapore, Rome, Dubai, Berlin, and Barcelona. It's a lineup of global heavyweights, and London sits at the very top of it. According to the report, the city stands out across the 3 big pillars. It ranks first, second, and third in those categories, the only city to perform that strongly across the board. But what is it that makes London so special? The ranking highlights the city's mix of history, economic power, and cultural influence as key reasons it remains a global heavyweight. The study notes what it calls the city's magnetic appeal, describing how London continues to attract students, entrepreneurs, visitors, and major companies from around the world. That global pull is reflected in the numbers. International travellers spent nearly $22 billion in the city in 2024, up from $17.4 billion the year before. That puts London among the highest in the world for visitor spending, ahead of places like New York and Dubai. A weaker pound has played a role too, making the city slightly more affordable for overseas tourists without taking away from what the city offers. The report also points to London's strong recovery after the pandemic, its world-class universities, and its growing reputation as a destination for tech and climate innovation. Indian companies, including InMobi Advertising, iGene Media, and Venpep Solutions, have increasingly chosen London as a base for global expansion. Climate tech firms like Illume, Cloverly, and Einride are also scaling in the city, adding to its momentum in emerging industries. But the ranking isn't just about big investments or shiny statistics. It also focuses on what it's like to simply be in London. The report highlights a city that combines economic strength, cultural depth, and global relevance in a way few others currently do. And after 11 years at number 1, the real question is this: who, if anyone, can finally take the crown from London?
That's going to do it for us today. And from all of us here at First Post America, we certainly thank you all once again for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching.